Under President Trump, the federal government is dramatically shifting policy on climate change. Instead of cutting back on fossil fuels linked to global warming, the administration wants to clear the way for more extraction of oil, gas, and coal. That's one of the reasons for the recent protest and lobbying effort in Washington by parents and children organized by Moms Clean Air Force. Our guest is one of the participants from New England and the group's national field director. We'd like to welcome Trisha Sheehan. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
First of all, talk about what got you started in this group, because this is about something that I guess affected your family, a form of pollution.
So in 2012, my family was impacted from a toxic chemical spill that happened when a train derailed that was carrying 23,000 gallons of vinyl chloride over a railroad, and it had derailed and punctured the train car and spewed that toxin into the air that we were breathing. We were not in the community where the spill had happened, but we were downwind on the other side of the creek. And so my family continued to be sick as the wind had blown the toxin into our neighborhood. And I continued to reach out to the hotline that they provided us to report your health symptoms, letting them know that my family was really sick. We indeed had, a quick Google search told me that the burning in my throat and the sweet taste in my tongue and the nausea and the vomiting and the intense head pain was due, in fact, to our exposure to the vinyl chloride. I went to our family doctor. She said, "You definitely do have vinyl chloride exposures. I don't know how to treat this." And they were telling us that the air in our community was safe, and it turned out that they were not properly calibrating the equipment to test the air to show us that there was an elevated level of vinyl chloride. And so what this taught me is that our federal agencies are not equipped, and our first responders are not equipped to handle the magnitudes of the accidents that we can face, whether it come from toxic chemicals or whether it's, the health threat that we're seeing from our changing climate. And so I had heard about this new group, Moms Clean Air Force, that just started organizing. They were just under a year old, and I reached out to them and I said, "I'm a mother and I have children and we are sickened from the air that we are breathing. What can I do?" And that was in 2012. It's now 2017. We've quickly grown. We have over 1 million members. We have chapters in over 20 states across the country. And most recently, we were in Washington, D.C. We brought over 600 people to our capital from across the country to advocate for children's health protections from our changing climate and toxic chemicals.
Well, what do you think the effect of that was? Because we often think of these issues being raised by maybe college students or people doing graduate work. You're doing this, it's moms and dads and kids.
Right, and so our message really resonates with moms and anyone really that cares about children's health. It's a very tangible issue. We are seeing the rates of asthma rise. I know in Massachusetts alone, there's over 165,000 children that suffer every year and that have been diagnosed with asthma. We have over 13,000 emergency room visits in last year in Massachusetts. And so the rate of asthma is rising, and we are seeing that from our warming temperatures. Ozone pollution is a real threat in the Boston area. We have high levels of ozone during the summer. The increased heat causes the ozone levels to rise, which causes an inflammation in your lungs, which is a threat to children with developing lungs, and then also people that have asthma.
This has been News. We're talking with Trisha Sheehan from Moms Clean Air Force. I guess another offshoot of the use of fossil fuels and global warming is a women's health issue, the cardiovascular problems. I wasn't very aware of this. Explain the link.
Yeah, so air pollution does exacerbate heart issues, we're finding. And air pollution comes directly from the fossil fuel industry, so the coal-fired smokestacks and methane pollution. We hear all this discussion over natural gas being a cleaner, safer bridge fuel to get us away from carbon, but what it really actually does is there's a lot of co-pollutants that are emitted, and methane is a greenhouse gas that also contributes to our warming climate.
And of course, you might have heard the news from down here in Boston, is that we got some people in West Roxbury who don't like the idea of having a big natural gas pipeline go through their neighborhood and not too far from where there's blasting. So I guess it's a little bit like what you had to worry about with your family.
Right, and that's what Moms Clean Air Force really, I think, has had so much success, is because these stories resonate with our members. They have, fracking industry popping up in their backyard, popping up in the parks and the schools where their children are supposed to play and learn. And we have several members who have children who have benzene poisoning or suffer from their exposure to the benzene that is emitted from the fracking pollution.
Talk about your faith in the ability of the government to protect people through regulation, because one of the things you're contending with under the Trump administration and the Republicans in Congress are some pretty sizable budget cuts in the Environmental Protection Administration.
Right. So right now, Moms Clean Air Force and our members are working really hard to urge our senators to oppose Trump's, we call it his dirty budget. And we like to say that nobody voted to make America dirty again, regardless of your partisan and party line. This is not a partisan issue. We know that as a parent or as a person that cares about health, children's health, you did not vote to make America dirty again. And all of these rollbacks to these regulations are showing us that Trump's agenda is to line the pockets of polluters and roll back all of these protections that we've worked really hard to put in place.
No, I'm sure you've heard him say this before, and he said it again this week. The president says that, I'm putting people back to work too, in the coal mines, or making it easier for many companies to do business.
Yeah, and I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but there's some really deep statistics on the facts around that message. Many people will tell you, even in the coal industry, that coal is dead, and that there's actually more jobs in renewable energy. There's more jobs in EPA air monitoring. I just read today about the amount of jobs just in Massachusetts alone that the EPA and clean air technologies deploy is a lot more than what the coal industry does promote.
We should finally mention that if people want to find out more about your organization and its campaign, you've got a website they can go to?
Yeah, our website is www.momscleanairforce.org.
Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
Trisha Sheehan from Moms Clean Air Force. We'll have more news in just a moment.